Don't get the homeowner's insurance. Don't worry about that. Get the real estate insurance. The real estate insurance will cover what the homeowner's insurance does, and then on top of that, they'll make sure that like you're protected in case you get a lawsuit, from like one of your tenants, something like that. So the LLC will be there to be that front of like protection, of like legal protection, stuff like that, and again like the I'm blanking on what the LLC stands for, that acronym, or abbreviation really, because you can't like pronounce it.
Limited liability company.
Limited, thank you. Yes, god damn it. Limited liability. Yes, thank you. Thank you, JJ. What would I do without you? But yeah, limited liability company. It's just like the rent, the real estate insurance acts as well as like another front to like if you get a lawsuit, they'll go after the real estate insurance first, that sort of thing. I'll let you know that anything like sort of the changes about that sort of thing. I'll have to do more investigation about that, just to make sure it was vetted, just to make sure that it's correct. But I got it from a pretty reliable source. Let's see here. Yeah, and since again we were looking at like you can expect like per property that the rent the real estate insurance will cost you like 100, maybe up to like $120, $130 a month or something like that. But that's basically the same cost as home insurance, so it's already calculated into that. So the whole figure's about like here's how much money you could be making. Like it hasn't changed on that front. It's just something to like change to, and it gives you more protection as a landlord, that sort of thing. That's it, that's what it does. From the light research that I was doing, and please research all this on your own. Make sure that before you do anything, actually make sure you have like check your list twice, that sort of thing, right? Like Santa Claus or some shit.
Jacob Simon accountable for.
Huh? You're holding accountable. I'll have you know I have real estate insurance. Okay, you can't come at me with like a lawsuit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that's really important to note about the the $55,000 and stuff like that. Again, you're not renting. The rent money itself doesn't even include HELOCs. Again, this is another thing, right? We keep bringing this up again. It's going to be a recurring theme. Bedrocks, you guys. But Jesus Christ, that's a shitty bedrock, right? Bedrocks, though, right? Bedrocks. The reason why, because when we were looking at $55,000, because you're not paying rent, you're getting rent money, and then on top of that, the HELOCs. None of that money is even including what you're doing with what was there, leveraged ETFs. Not even the investments, right? That you can do, the other investment opportunities that are out there that you can do, right? So those are things to consider. So you'll be making even more. That's sort of the point. Just something to note. But I wish I had emphasized more of that stuff. Something else to keep in mind is that for the FHA loans, you can't do this because then they go from 1 unit to up to 4 dwelling units, that sort of thing. But for like a DSCR loan, so I put this as well into the cards that I hand out now. They're always getting better, they're always improving. But is that because for these two properties, you want to like maximize the money that you're getting from them. Again, you're setting up dividers in the living room, that sort of jazz, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, about like getting a safe for your valuables, and things like that. Protective measures that you can put in place. But as well, so after the 2 FHA loans, right? Once we've done that, right? And again, it's like you only have to stay in these things for 1 year, right? 1 year each. Anyways, after that point though, the best thing that you would be interested in, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm pretty sure from a couple of different experts, right? They said that it would definitely be like more. Definitely be more. The DSCR loan will cost you 15% down payment. Okay, that's what they're going to be doing. That's the one that you want. Again, it's more money, less upfront, so you can save that money later on. That sort of thing. Anyways, let's see here. Okay, so the point about this is that you don't have to stick to like a 3-bedroom townhouse that I was like looking at before, or like even another quadplex. Like you can get a place that has like 6 bedrooms in it, right? You can do that, and if you have that sort of money, and you're looking at like the money that you'd be able to get from it, that sort of thing, and keeping in mind it's like sort of well, I have the amount of money right now. I don't know why I dropped 2. Yeah, I have the money right now for like a you know, a quadplex or something like that, right? And if I wait a little bit, I'd eventually have the money for like a 6 bedroom room that can make you like, you know, this much more money. I don't know, you know.
Through like subletting, not like renting out individual units, but just so like the FHA loans. There's a whole thing about the quadplex, but does that also cap it at like 4 bedrooms?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's four dwelling units, that sort of thing. 1 to 4 units.
But when it's a shared kitchen and stuff, that doesn't change like any of that. Okay.
No, it's just yeah. They look at the bedrooms. That's what it's about.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, if you could find like a place, again, it's mainly about like that they don't like it to be a rental property. So you could see about this. You could investigate this if it's sort of, so what you'd be investigating is if it's like, well, it's got 4 bedrooms. It's 4 bedrooms. Man, these markers are crap. It's 4 bedrooms.
No. You didn't.
It's gone. It's 4 bedrooms. And it's got like, you know, a kitchen for every room and a bathroom for every room and stuff like that. If you were to find a property like that, it'd probably be very expensive, but nonetheless, you're gonna be able to find a property like that. And again, like you're getting help from like the Genoa Fund and Community Seconds and Jazz. So, you know, it wouldn't even really be a problem on that front. Just the mortgage would be expensive. But again, it's sort of like, well, how much can I charge for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the question about it. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, so for 4 bedrooms, and it's like, you know, got all those things, it's got a kitchen, it's got a bathroom for each one, stuff like that. Again, you'd have to look at like what could you charge for this sort of place, as opposed to like, here's a 4 bedroom with like shared, you know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The FHA, huh?
I mean, it's just like it seems like there's a lot more value in not having a shared kitchen. Like
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. So typically speaking, again, you'd have to look at like, well, how much is the mortgage? How much should I, you know, that sort of thing. So do that analysis. But typically speaking, like, yeah, if you could get that sort of property, that'd be a great idea for the FHA loans, because again, you're not even going, you know, you're not even bothering about the down payments and the closing costs. Again, but but don't be surprised if you got rejected for this sort of thing, because it looks like a serious like investment property. They don't like that. They like it to be a primary home. So you know, keep that in mind. But explore it anyways. But just keep in mind though that don't be surprised if you get rejected. In any case, so we were talking about right. So the next step in all this is that after the 2 FHA homes, you get into a DSCR home, and it's like you want it to be like 6 bedrooms and stuff like that. Make sure obviously that it's able to like make more than just, you know, like a 4 bedroom place or something like that, which, you know, probably would, unless like, again, like what like the repair costs and stuff like that. So it's stuff to like look at, stuff to think about. Because again, you're wanting to look at like, on one hand, it's the, you know, the repair costs and stuff like that, as well as the down payment costs for the 15% from the DSCR loan. So there's those things up front to sort of like think about, more or less up front, about the repair. Because if you were to like go with this one, and you think, so let's put it like hypothetically like this, it's like bad numbers, but like whatever. If you went with this one, it'd be able to make you like another $200 like per month or something like that. But if you went with this one like right now, and you didn't bother about like, you know, the extra down payment and the repair, so you would take like, it would take me another $3,000, or maybe 13, I don't know, just like 3 or whatever, it doesn't matter. For the repair and the down payment's like another like $10,000 or something like that. And the 4 bedroom, like I'd have to wait like a year or something like that, to be able to have enough money for this sort of thing. You look at the 4 bedroom place, okay, if I were to get this place right now, I would make an extra, you know, $300, you know, weird numbers, but whatever. I'd make an extra like $300 like right now, as opposed to if I were to like, you know, get $200 each and every single time afterwards. So you got $300 right now, and on top of that, you're saving yourself like $13,000 immediately, more or less, because of that. You have to think about the investment potential of this money going like right there, as well as the money like upfront that you could get immediately in 1 year, right? Because again, it's sort of like I'd have to wait another year. So you get this money, here's this extra money, right? Because you didn't have to wait or anything like that. So this is coming from that. Just like here's 1 year from that anyways. This comes all together. And then you're thinking about like, well, what can I do with like, the leveraged ETFs? Here's this like investment potential, that sort of thing. So it's, even though like I could make an extra, again, sort of like weird numbers, but even though I could make like an extra $200 like each and every single month over and over again, if you take this money that you would have had to put towards that, and you put it instead towards the leveraged ETFs, it's like, well, in the first year, just baseline sort of things, so to speak, because we're approximating like 20% or something like that to be like extra conservative, uber conservative. Maybe they go, total. Anyway, so I'm gonna make 250. You know what I mean? In the first year. And again, this is compounding. This is compounding money. So it gets better and better. If you beat it, this is sort of the point about this, about compounding. If you, in the very beginning, in the very first year, if you're able to beat it by a little bit, it will always stay like that, so long as leveraged ETFs even exist. But of course, it would, because things only really delist. It's a rare thing for things to delist in the stock market, unless things are crashing, and they're crashing terribly, and it's like an ETF, and they're just like, nope, sorry, we have to cut our losses, that sort of stuff. But again, context. It's not going to happen unless, of course, if it's looking like, oh, hey, we got another pandemic going on. Get out of the stock market. You know what I mean? Like, get out. And I say that like world, global bad news and that sort of stuff. Structural things that are like, to note. Another pandemic or like a war breaks out, like we're having one right now. It's just hilarious, and then we're going to go over cycle analysis and be like, oh my god, wow, look at that timing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny to me. It's more of an inside joke because I know what it looks like. You'll see exactly what it looks like. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, of course it would be like having right now. It's this. To quickly put a note to it, there is like something of a science that applies to analyzing the. They say like don't time the market. What that means, really, what it really means is like don't try to be like, on this like, oh, a couple weeks from now, without like much of any sort of evidence or reason or anything like that. A couple weeks from now, it's gonna go up or something like that. Just be like it's gotta, that sort of thing. Like a lack of sufficient reasoning, don't time the market, because it is hard to do that sort of thing. But there are things that you can look at to be like, well, here's like a bunch of evidence to be able to say that in around this time period, there's going to be a shift in a different sort of direction. There's also context, and there's like news, and so much boatloads of evidence that we can say like this is going to affect this, because like of course it would, that sort of thing. And that's not so much like timing the market as much as like historical analysis and stuff like that. So there's something of a loose science applied to it. This dude who's been in the stock market for like over 40 years, I've been following him. He has like this team behind him as well. Very credible dude. His name is his website's like Ask Slim. He's this funny guy, but he worked in like the CBOE, the Chicago Board of Exchange. But yeah, AskSlim.com. You can look up Steve Miller is his like YouTube handle, that sort of thing. So you can look that up on YouTube as well and see like what he has to say. But yeah, it's a lot of cycle analysis, and it's again like if you look through it in like back testing it. This is something that we do that happens a lot, for stock investing. You can back test different like tools and stuff, and indicators, stuff like that. And you'll see it line up and how well it can line up, and with like reasons about like momentum analysis. He incorporates that. It has to do with the flow of money that's going in and out. There is something of a loose science that we can actually apply to stock market, to the stock market. I do believe. I mean, you can analyze it, and it does show up like patterns. Patterns show up. That's literally the basis of empiricism, that we do tests and then we see it like happen recurring. You know what I mean? So it's a loose science, a soft science, sort of like psychology itself. Indeed, it has to do with psychology. So, anyways, but that was sort of the point about that. But keep in mind for a DSCR loan afterwards, because again, it's like I want like my own room. You know what I mean? Like at some point you're gonna want that. So keep at least an open mind for like what sort of other properties are there out there, but also an analysis, a loose analysis on, and you do it more in depth if you like, but a loose analysis at least on like, here's how much it would cost to repair and the down payment. And it's like, well, wait a second, I'm beating it. You're in the first year, because again, it's compounding. In the first year, if it does that, then you should be okay. Get something of a hypothetical about like, here's 20% or something like that. If you beat it in the first year of what it would be able to make you in its rent, right? That sort of thing. So it just depends like that. Anyway, so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I went over that a little bit. Yeah, no, that's okay. Okay, Something to note though is that again with the money that you're getting from these properties, in order to keep their CAGRs up, remember what if you guys remember what CAGRs stand for, compounded annual growth rate, right? That's the actual number that you apply to how much is my money growing on any single like given year. Understand the responsibilities of owning properties, again like repair, maintenance, care, that sort of stuff. It shouldn't be too heavy if you get a good property and a good property inspection. And light renovation is what I would recommend. Like at most, if it needs like to be painted, if it needs like maybe like some loose flooring or something like that, some new flooring. If it needs like structural stuff, stay away from that. Generally speaking, unless it's just like, oh my God, it's on sale for like $1,000. You know what I mean?
Foundation
But
issues.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep that sort of stuff in mind. Go for light renovations. Generally speaking, I could be wrong though. Again, it depends, but generally speaking, that's what you want to keep your mind on. And investing the money that you get from these properties into leveraged ETFs, those sorts of ventures, in order to make sure that your money is not sitting there being eaten away at. It's being able to continuously compound. That's what you want most of all. The power of compounding is just like mind-boggling. Like we looked at before, I remember showing this to you guys, like here's like $5,000 for like 20 years or something like that at a rate of like 30% CAGR. It's like here's $1 million, cool. It was one time $5,000 over 20 years. Do that $5,000 each and every single year over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden it's like here's 25 instead. It's like do you know where it goes? We looked at another number, right? It was like $20,000 over like 20 years or something like that at like 40 maybe or something like that. And it was like $6 billion.
Yeah, I know my grandpa
Like
got like $73,000 that he paid $500 for in like 1953. It was $500.
Yeah.
Didn't work at all for any of that. Just like kind of forgot about it, and like
Yeah.
it's 73 grand right now. Like
What did he put it into?
Sears.
Huh?
Sears Roebuck. He bought like a bond from.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, something that doesn't exist anymore, but it got bought by Sears.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing. I mean, it's mind-boggling and it's weird and it's almost sort of like just it's strange to think about. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
But that's sort of the point, though. We're not being taught financial literacy, so it seems very strange to us, and it seems like this is too good to be true. But then it's like, here, I can mathematically prove it to you. It's happened already.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. It's just weird, but these things will exist again. Worst case scenario, I think the leveraged ETFs may actually have a good chance of being delisted. Not the inverse leveraged ETFs. Those ones are going to continue going. Don't worry about that. But like most probably, anyways. They could like crash and then be delisted, but probably not because they've been crashing really badly and they have not been delisted. So and of course now at this point in stage and stuff like that, we're looking at the beginning of the crash. But those 3 times leveraged ETFs, they may very well get delisted. But they won't stay delisted. They'll come back. Someone else will pick them up again and be like, here it is again, because it made a lot of money. They want that. So yeah, keep that in mind. And anyway, so that sort of thing, just something to keep in mind. So something that I wrote down here. Though you'll have to work more to manage multiple properties, really 2, 3 maybe. It'll provide a safety beyond the fluctuations of the market or delisting. This is sort of like over and above, just like let me just like continue working and like try to live off of like the leverage ETFs and stuff like that, and just stock market stuff. Like why the arguments for like why the properties. But it's important to know about this that the fluctuations in the markets aren't even going to be really a big deal because you're holding long term anyways, right? Unless something big comes up like a pandemic or war or a massive bubble, that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff. That makes sense then. But beyond that though, don't worry about the fluctuations in the market on a day-to-day basis. Don't even look at it really. Just keep up, generally speaking, with like the news and that sort of thing. But leave it there, let it grow, so you don't have to worry about that front. And then on top of that, the rarity of delistings. Again, these things happen only when it's like crashing. They're losing all the money and stuff like that because it's crashing, right? Beyond that sort of stuff, if the market's going up, which it generally does, and outside of a bubble and it's crashing, blah blah blah, right? You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. So don't like worry about it. But just something to keep in mind. Nonetheless, though, know the benefits of leveraged ETFs to be liquidity. It's a big thing. You can instantly sell the stuff. High potential for CAGR, compound annual growth rate. These things, low cost, no maintenance or anything like that. And again, looking at history, these things grew like stupidly. And no maintenance, renovation costs, little to no work at all. Like you're not having to bother with tenants and shit like that. And no need for efforted reinvestment, as to say that like you take the money from your like real estate and you have to like put it into that. It's like the money from like your it compounds in and of itself. Like if you want the compounding, it does it automatically, that sort of thing. You have to do it more manually for the rental properties because otherwise it's just sitting there, sort of thing. Except for the property value compounding, that's the one exception. But of course, for most of the years, most of it is going to be coming from just like the rent money of the money that you get, and that's flat, that sort of thing, because it's not compounding automatically like the leveraged ETFs are. Anyways, one must be aware. This is sort of the point. But and most importantly, one must be aware of these alternatives, understanding that delistings happen when stocks and ETFs crash hard, which these will during this next crash that's happening. So these may very well delist, but it won't stay like that. Probably won't. But if they do get delisted because of the crash, keep an eye out for the next leveraged ETFs to come out. Okay, conservatively, 40 to 45% CAGR with the leveraged ETFs, particularly knowing the federal funds rate to drop. That's another thing. That was actually something I wanted to note as well. I can show you guys this on the screen, but they're the federal funds rate on the projection. What has happened each and every single time the market has like crashed really hard, what has generally happened most every single time, particularly in recent times, is that the federal funds rate, which controls like the interest rates, you hear about like, oh, the mortgage rates are going up and all that sort of jazz, and it's going to crash the housing market, like, which it will. And also like really stupidly high. We looked about that last time, that like we're, as far as like the home valuations are about as high, if actually not simply higher, than where we were before like the crash of 08 and shit like that. So property prices are going to crash really hard. Great opportunities for us though to be aware of. The point about this though is that when the market crashes have happened, the federal funds rate follows suit and goes down as well. And there's like other like reasons for why, so that their debt, the federal government's debt. The Federal Reserve, by the way, is not the federal government, but they are like interlinked. It's sort of like semi-private sort of thing. Like they control each other, but they kind of don't. So it helps them like with the federal government's like debt and stuff like that. But regardless, though, what has happened in recent times is that they've crashed. The federal funds rate has gone lower, but that doesn't like immediately help the stock market. The stock market has continued to crash. When we look at this again, it'd be easier to like to show you this sort of thing, but just in a nutshell, that's sort of basically it. But what that does though is it really helps the market to then rebound, and that's sort of like what they try to do, is to help the market come back, that sort of thing, because they have like financial distress and that sort of thing. So that's sort of the point, is that people talk about like, oh my gosh, no, like the interest rates now, they're like so low, I have to get in. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Time and time again throughout history, when the market has crashed and the real estate market has crashed, that the federal funds rate has dipped like below, like to go down by like a significant portion, to be able to help the market come back. It will be happening again. This is not like the last time. So people like flipping out, try to, get Russia, and then of course the bubble gets even bigger. Anyway, so few last notes here. Get pepper spray or the like for general self-defense purposes, that sort of thing. Yeah, really. But since only dividers in the beginning, that sort of thing, something to keep in mind, at least just cause like you'll probably be just fine and safe, and you know what I mean.
Don't fuck with me energy.
Right. Yeah. That sort of thing. But and as well as safe for valuables and personal information, that sort of thing, just to keep things safe. Also, by the way, fun fact, order an angel shot. An angel, like an angel, like in heaven and shit, like angel shot in a bar if you are in trouble. Something I learned recently. I was like, that's really a really cool fact that I wish I knew more of.
Like it's bartender code.
It's exactly for if you're in trouble, and maybe like it's like they'll protect you, and they'll like, you're like, here, come behind the bar, we'll get you away from like whoever's bothering you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun fact, angel shot. Just something to like try to remember. For future reference, should the stock market be something of trouble, again, like it's a massive bubble, there's like all this like bad news coming out, there's another pandemic, a war, blah blah blah. Make sure to use your funds available to invest in property, so that in the very least, generally speaking, of course, this, and I think I say here, unless it's in trouble too, in which case refer to either inverses, which is something that you can do. It's a little more involved, but in the very least, cash is king. It's a phrase that people say, like, I'm just going to pull out, I'm just going to hold right now. Let things like sort it out, that sort of thing. But should the stock market be something in trouble, blah, blah, blah. Go into property so that you can keep using the money, so it's not just like sitting there and burning through inflation. Give other growth. Other ventures are, of course, possible, okay. One last note, the reason for continuing to work, the much more money later on, we'll get into that, but yeah, really quickly, just to simply wrap this up. Thank you for coming anyway. So, work as long as you can, work as much as you can, because again, that money that you will have like immediately now will mean so much more later on. Like the difference between like compounding over 20 years versus 10 years is like massive, like you wouldn't believe it. So it's it's something to keep in mind, that sort of thing. But keep going, keep grinding if you can, and in the very least, take care of yourself financially and all that jazz. So all right, that is it. Thank you for coming by. All right, there it is.